This question is what we call a main point, main conclusion question. The question then reads, which one of the following most accurately expresses the main conclusion of the economist's argument? So this is something that we learn in one of our earliest lessons, which is to figure out what an argument is and how to separate out the different parts of an argument. This is asking for the main conclusion, and the parts of argument, it's either premise or conclusion, so they're asking for the conclusion and not the premise. So the way you want to think about it, and this is all covered in way more depth in our actual lessons, but obvious time constraints here. I'll just say the way you want to think about it is ask yourself, what really does the author want you to believe? Like, he's saying all this stuff to you, but really if he only gets to say one thing to you, he will want to persuade you of his main point, right? The others are just reasons why you should believe his main point. So let's read. Economist says, every business strives to increase its productivity. Okay, for this increases profits for the owners and the likelihood that the business will survive. So this is why, every business strives to increase its profit. Why? Because more profits, likelihood to survive, so on and so forth. But is a word that we learn in our grammar lessons, signals a context shift from context now to our argument. So wherever this main conclusion is hiding, it's going to be hiding somewhere over here. The but renders like, okay, fine, this is all good and stuff, but now pay attention. Now the economist really wants you to pay attention to what he's going to say. He's going to say, but not all efforts to increase productivity are beneficial to business as a whole. Why? Why should I believe that not every single effort to increase productivity are beneficial to business as a whole? Because you just told me that, this stuff is good, right? Increased productivity is good. And he's going to tell you why some efforts perhaps are not beneficial. Because often businesses attempt to increase productivity by decreasing the number of employees, which clearly harms the dismissed employees as well as the sense of security of retained employees. So that's their premise. This is the argument. They're saying this is the reason why you should believe this statement. Not all efforts to increase productivity are beneficial to business as a whole. So this here is the conclusion. This here is our main conclusion. So at this point, this is again a lesson that we learn in our main conclusion lesson set, is you just get tunnel vision. For at this point, don't worry about any of this stuff. Don't worry about any of this stuff. Just focus on this. Paraphrase this the best you can. A says, if an action is taken to secure survival of business fails, enhance, then action cannot be good. I suppose close enough. Whatever you want to say about it, they use a lot of the same words, a lot of different words, but it's not saying the same thing that this is saying. I suppose this is true. If an action does fail to enhance the welfare of the employees, then maybe it's not good for business. I have no idea. But you see, that's just not what this statement is saying. This statement is saying not all efforts to increase productivity are beneficial to business as a whole. B says some measures taken by business to increase productivity fail to be beneficial. There you go. That's exactly right. Not all efforts are beneficial. That means some efforts are not beneficial. And in fact, this sort of carries lesson in the negation, in which our negation curriculum covers. Not all cats are friendly. That means what? That means some cats are not friendly. C says only if employees' business are also its owners will the interests of the owner's employees coincide, enabling the business. Again, it sounds like decent business practice, I suppose, but it just doesn't matter. It's not paraphrasing the statement. So this type of question, the main point, main conclusion question, is very, very cut and dry in the way you approach it. D says there is no business that does not make efforts to, I suppose that's true. I suppose every business does make efforts to increase productivity, but so what? It's not paraphrasing this. E says decreasing the number of employees in a business undermines the sense of security retained. Yeah, this is something that they said over here, but it's a part of the premise. If they had asked us to paraphrase the premise, then E will be the right answer choice. There are questions that do that. There are questions that sort of isolate a part of the stimulus, and they ask you, what role does it play? In which case, premise will be right for E. But look, the reason why E is such a trap answer choice is tricky because it plays at the very end, and it also paraphrases the last statement. And so if you don't have a lot of training in this, if you don't understand what an argument is, you don't understand what a conclusion is, then often you'll say to yourself, the last sentence is the conclusion. The last sentence is the thing that you're most likely to have retained in your short-term memory. So you read it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember reading about this, so choose E, you move on. So be very careful not to make that mistake.